information provided in this show is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. Viewers should use their own discretion and consult with a healthcare professional for personalized guidance and recommendations. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Health Revolution. We are so glad that you are here. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, and our show is all about engaging conversations, elevating health and wellness, and empowering transformation. And we are excited for today's show. As you all are tuning in, no matter what channel you are tuning in from or what avenue you've partaken to have gotten to us today. Remember, don't forget to tap into the show notes. You can find those at the very bottom of the screen, and you're going to find some incredible information about our show episode today. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button in no matter how you are tuning in. So let's talk about a few things. Let's talk about how what it means to create our comeback stories and all that implies. Today, we're going to do a heartwarming deep dive inspirationally into how we can lean forward and take these takeaway gems and apply them to our lives. My guest today, her name is Laura Ballerini. So let me tell you a little bit about her. Laura is a graphic designer. She's an author, and she is what she is known to be as a perspective shifter by definition. So we're going to get into that for sure. She has decades of experience in design and business. Now that has established her as an expert in that industry. She's also the author of The Green Velvet Chair. We get to chat a little bit about that. She is a breast cancer survivor. So through her stories of creating vision and clarity, she stepped into that spotlight of lending her thoughts and perspectives on life and life's challenges that will inspire everyone, and truly does inspire everyone, from leaders to even you, the viewers who are tuning in today. So with that, allow me to bring up today's guest, Laura Ballerini. Welcome to the show, Laura. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
I'm excited. You know, when you and I first talked, I thought it was intriguing that you wore the different hats that you currently wear. And so I think it would be fun to dive into a little bit of how the background that you have to where you are today, being the graphic designer expert, the author, and then of course the survivor and the badassy that you are. So let's talk a little bit about it. Tell us, what's your background?
Yeah, so I always loved art and design, even as a kid. So when I was deciding what I wanted to be when I grew up, it was like hands down, I was going to go to art college. So I went to art college here in Calgary, Alberta. And that was a 4-year, it's a degree program now. So I went there for 4 years. I got a job in advertising and worked for the Calgary Herald, which is a local newspaper here. And then I got into website design. That was kind of coming in the 90s. So I was actually, I'm really dating myself, but I was designing some of the first websites in the city. So I was very proud of that. We kind of jumped in head first right from the beginning. And I've been doing website design and brand design and, now social media. So really learning something every day after even decades of experience. So I think when I stop learning, I'm probably going to hang up my hat, because it's an exciting world of design. And I've learned a whole bunch through the decades.
So tell me a little bit about you being in that innovative role, because back then, of course, lots of things were evolving. And so being a woman, being a businesswoman, and coming into your own, what was it like for you to break down barriers that allowed you to climb to higher levels and redefine who you were at that time?
That's a tough question. I never felt that I was discriminated against as a woman or as a working mother. I always felt I worked for very forward-thinking companies, and I guess I was kind of brave in many ways, that I did kind of forge ahead. And if there was any anti-feminism, anti-working people out there, I didn't recognize them. I didn't see it. So I moved forward as I think quite brave, just forging ahead and going, I can do this, kind of the little train that's climbing the hill. So I kind of just forged ahead.
That's fantastic. And, it's I think that as women, we continue the roles as we get older. We get to be in that things are continuing to, to be shaped by our actions. And so, what allowed you to grow into graphic design? And what I mean by that is, what types of leadership skills did you find that you had to tap into, even though maybe you were more reserved? Because as you and I got the chance to talk, I know I got the sense that you had that level of reservation, that maybe you were shyer back then. And so it takes guts, if you will, to step forward and really use your voice. So what was that transition like back then for you?
It was tough. I mean, I was shy. I was a shy kid. I was a shy young designer. And as I started to grow and evolve in my career, it was like I needed to find my voice. And I did find my voice. And I work with a marketing coach, and she says, Laura, you always had a voice. Now you've elevated your voice. So I think that's the difference. I've kind of elevated my voice as an introvert, as a quiet person. But I think what makes me find my voice and have a value, I think, to what I say, is that I'm a good listener. I listen to my clients. I listen to people that I work with that are experts in their areas, writers, marketers, social media experts. I listen and I learn. And I think that's how I lead too, is as a coach. I'm learning what their challenges are, what they need to do in their job, all the details behind that. And I think my leadership style is as a coach, as a more quiet, reserved, pushing ahead, forging ahead, believing in the people that I work with. And we all work together as a team, bringing each of our very specific skills to the forefront to make each project better for the client, obviously better for us, so that we really get results from the work that we do.
So you have to have a vision, obviously, in graphic design. I'm imagining that your eye, your attention to detail, the vibe, if you will, that you're pulling from what you're trying to create has to has to evoke maybe that sense of feeling, that um either warmth or boldness or anything in between. So what allows you to really delve into that and give you that creative space?
Yeah, so when I start a new project, I don't design what I like or what I want to do. We typically have a discovery session with a client, and that may be a half day, a full day, where we're asking them the questions. What makes you tick? Like, sure, they know their business well, we know what we do well, but we have to kind of put ourselves in their shoes. Why did you start the company? Why do you have that name? What kind of products do you have? What benefits do they give to the viewers? Really learning about their business, about their company. And that's actually what I love about my work, is I get to learn a whole bunch about companies I didn't even know existed. So really listening, learning, asking the questions that maybe not many people ask, asking sometimes those tough questions, really digging into why they started the company, why they're here, what they want to instill, as you say, that emotive design, that emotive writing it's actually very trendy right now, and it always should have been. But it's really not selling the product, but really selling, what is that product going to do for me as a buyer, and how is that going to make me feel? So definitely design has more than ever become that very emotional sale, right? And storytelling has become, just business storytelling has become a very strong trend. And I think it's very warranted. It's like, we don't buy from the company, we buy from the people within the company. The brand is the people. So it's really about developing relationships, emotions around products and services.
So you hit on a word that I definitely wanted to touch on later on. You talked about the brand. Now I want to dig a little bit deeper, if you will. How did you begin to cultivate, say, your brand within your role that you were creating in business? So like your personal brand back then, even though back then that wasn't the lingo that we were using back in the 90s and years past. But how did you, as someone who was shy, as a woman who stepped into her own, what were the elements that helped to cultivate you and your personal brand, who you are?
That is a terrific question. I started my company, and it's called Blue Brown Communications. And I named that company because I have two daughters. One has blue eyes, one has brown eyes. And I thought, I want to see the world of design through the fresh eyes of a child. I mean, I think you have children, and as they're growing, they're always asking why. And I wanted to be that designer that, yeah, in those discovery sessions, why? Why do you do it this way? Why did you build this product? Why did you design? Why did you name your company with this name? Always asking why. Those fresh eyes, those kind of inquisitive, thoughts. That's how I wanted to be as a designer and continue. And even like decades later, I hope I'm inquisitive and always asking the why.
So would you say, and now this is me being curious here, would you say that that curiosity, that your shift into graphic design and what you do professionally was because maybe there was that level of expression based on being shy? Would you say, I'm kind of wondering out loud if that evolved into that level of expression through projects that you were, the vision and the projects that you had tapping into that?
Right. That's a very good question because I do believe in everything I do. I express myself visually. It's the clothes I wear. It's how I do my hair. It's my makeup. That's all just kind of the outside look. But everything I do is visual. I express myself visually. So when I'm doing a logo for a client, there's a whole bunch of thought processes that go into that logo. And when I present the logo, because I've thought it through and gone through our discovery and gone through all the questions and responses from the client, when I present that back, all of a sudden I have that voice because I did that homework. I did all that, the note taking and all the question asking. So when I present the logo, say I present 3 different logos and I'm pulling that rationale into the conversation. So it becomes a very, I think, articulate discussion about, okay, well, we pulled this color of blue because, and we chose this, whatever, this icon because of, you mentioned this. So all of a sudden, my visual thoughts help me to articulate orally. So I am a very quiet person, but I found through the years and certainly having my own business, you learn how to sell, you learn how to sell your ideas, you learn how to really express your processes and all that kind of stuff. And through that visually, it gave me the confidence to actually talk about it. So I think that's a really good question that you've asked.
And and kudos to you for just stepping into your own and being, a businesswoman and taking that to new heights. Now, take us through the process in which you began to have those unexpected moments in life where, maybe things were just that you were being challenged beyond that of the graphic design world and working with others. What challenged you to keep moving forward that really changed the landscape for the path that you were on?
Definitely just being in web design, being in new media design. I mean, I started out doing DVDs and CD-ROMs way back in the day. That's where we were at that point. So being in the technology kind of realm, you learn to be fast on your feet. I'm always reading. I'm always trying to be up on things. But I was more comfortable in the graphic design, the print world. But as I was working with clients, they're going, well, can you do my social media? Can you do my website and all these other things? And that's where I'm going, well, I'm actually turning work away by saying, no, young people should be doing social media. I'm too old. And then I thought, why am I turning away work? So then I started learning more about social media, and I realized social media is just another element of communication and design, whether it's video, whether it's URLs, whether it's links to various channels. That's just an extension of what I already do. So that was kind of an eye-opener for me, going, why am I turning away work because I think I'm not good enough, or I don't know that industry. I just kind of jumped in and go, yeah, I'm going to offer the whole gamut. I'm going to offer everything from trade show booths to social media to website to print. And that's kind of a nice one-stop service that I do provide with my clients. And I've also worked with experts at that. So I work with a programmer. I've been working with him for over 20 years. He knows what I don't know. I never go into a client and tell them I know everything, because nobody does. But it's like, I'm going to talk to my programming expert and I'll find out the answer. You know what I mean? I'm going to talk to my writers and see what slant we should take on this copy. I'm going to talk to, the videographer because he's got the eye for how to shoot this best. So I work with very seasoned senior team members that help me make the product better and help me learn more every day in every way.
You touched on something that caught my attention, and of course, it's something that we women are, that we that it comes a point where we do address it in our life, and that's obviously aging. I'm 50 years old. I'm proud to say that I'm 50. And your thoughts on aging, you mentioned earlier that there was that initial thought of being too old to handle social media or whatnot. How do you redefine aging? What's your take? What's your personal take on a woman who continues to step into each new chapter of her life?
I'm fighting it every step of the way. I mean, I've been in this industry for many, many decades. I'm not even comfortable saying how old I am, but I'm in my 60s. So I've been in this.
Let me just say that now. So.
Thank you. So you're very beautiful, but I am fighting it every step of the way, and I've had challenges along the way. And it's like, no, I'm going to keep on going, and I'm going to. When I fall, I pick myself up, brush myself off, and keep going. And I am finding with, my daughter is a graphic designer and kind of followed in my footsteps. And I actually, as I age, I'm loving that I'm seeing this younger generation of creatives coming up the ranks because they have different ideas and different perspectives. And that makes me excited because certainly I've learned a lot through the years, and I'm still learning, but I'm also learning from the young talent that's out there, and there's a lot of good talent out there. So I find that keeps me young too, is watching what these youngsters are doing. Like, they're not youngsters, they're in their 30s and stuff, but all the people that are coming up through the ranks, very exciting, creative minds. And I think the younger generation is probably smarter than we've ever been. They've got so many things to deal with, and social media being that extra element that kind of rounds them out. I find that that younger generation is very wise, very intelligent.
Can we hold space? What's your take on us holding space, mutual space with, say, those younger, and then those of us holding our own? And I think this is more of, like, say, the role of how a woman redefines herself, continuing to navigate through society. Like, what's ideal to hold space with those of us who are older, and then, say, those who we're handing the batons to?
Mm-hmm. I think it's always, for me, I am older, so I can say I'm hoping I'm sharing some of my wisdom. My daughter gave me a nice compliment the other day. She was working on actually her resume, and she's going, when I go through my resume, Mom, she worked with me through university when she was in art college. And she's going, Mom, I learned more from you when I worked for you through university than I have in my work life. And I thought, wow, I'm so proud of that. Like, she just learned about process and writing a schedule and a timeline and, organizing your files properly. Like, those are things that are really important. So for me, if I could pass on some of that wisdom to the up and coming, I think that's my job will be done. Like, I'll feel really positive about that,
How do you look to the future? What does optimism look like to you and your future?
I think it's aging gracefully. It's taking what I know and moving forward with that, but always having, for me, I do, my marketing coach called me a perspective shifter. And I thought, wow. She goes, you're not a graphic designer. You're not an artist. You are a communication solution provider. And I thought, wow. So I guess as I move forward, I want to continue kind of shifting the perspective. Like, that needle is always moving, and we're all moving forward with our lives, but it's really keeping a grasp on looking at that different perspective, from that different angle, from, the different light, from the different lens. If we're reading information, for example, I find there's a lot of possibly false information out there. It's citing my sources, making sure that what I'm reading is actually accurate and true. So it's really having that perspective to make sure that what I'm speaking back to is accurate and it's actually the truth. So I really try to be, authentic is an overused word, but I really try to be authentic. I really try to have that perspective shift in everything I say and do.
And that's an incredible. And we definitely need to do a deeper dive as to what this also has meant for you in other areas of your life. And before we do, we're going to take a commercial break. We will be right back here on The Health Revolution.
Coming this spring, by popular demand, the second season show on the Tour of Love.
The E360 TV platform is saying we want the Tour of Love.
With winner of the first Global Impactor Award, Tamara Hunter, along with Emmy-winning co-host Skip Thomas.
We are going on tour, on the road. It's time. Love unites, and there is healing through connections. This is a worldwide movement, the Tour of Love.
Welcome back to the Health Revolution. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison. Thank you all for tuning on in. And of course, as you're tuning into the live broadcast, remember that you can certainly share your comments, your input, your feedback. We have a few coming on in, and we appreciate you being a part of today's episode with my guest, Laura Ballerini. She's graphic designer, author, and perspective shifter. And so as we've been chatting, Laura, I know you started talking about being a perspective shifter, being able to change the lens and the angle by which we look at things. Take us through the moment in which your life changed personally, as you were, as we all know that our health is such a critical, is something that we hold valuable to us. Tell us, in terms of your health, what was that fork in the road, that plot twist that really changed the trajectory of where you were going in your life?
Yeah, so it was about, I'm kind of coming through my 1-year anniversaries right now, actually, but it was about a year, over a year ago now, that I found, I didn't realize this would be that emotional, but I found a lump in my breast, and I went to the doctor, and, of course, they did the biopsy and the tests, and they came back within a couple of weeks saying you have breast cancer. So it was a shock to me, because I've always been healthy. I've ate healthy, went to the gym regularly, I thought, a very positive outlook on life. And I'm going, no, cancer does not run in my immediate family. My mom was healthy from a breast cancer perspective. And I was shocked. And I told my sister, and she was shocked. So from there, I had the surgery and went through chemo, went through radiation, had some side effects from the chemo and all that. So it was a journey. It was a very interesting journey. And I found a lot of gifts along the way. I have to say, in many ways, it was very positive for me. And I know that sounds weird. There's a lot of pain and a lot of, rethinking your life, and a lot of, things that come to mind when you're diagnosed with a life-threatening disease. But for me, in many ways, it was a gift. There was many gifts along the way.
How did you process in the very beginning when when you came to the realization that this was now part of your journey, that the test results came back, that you were told this news, and what did that look like for you, how you processed it, how you received it, and how you set that foundation to work through those early stages of learning about this?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. So I found out that it was cancer at Christmas time. So I did not tell my family. They were all working very hard. They had taken time off through the holidays, and I didn't want to scare them. So I didn't tell them until the new year. So for me, I was actually, obviously it's a life changer, and it's scary, and it's very emotional. But for me, it was like, I have to be brave for the people around me. My husband, when I did tell him, was devastated. But for me, it didn't define me. It was something that happened. We got through it, and we're moving on. So it doesn't define me. But at the time, I did hold on to it. I didn't tell anybody until after, in the new year. And
I'm sorry. Were you worried that just the ambiance of the holiday season was just that it was not going to, that it was going to be, that it wasn't, that it was just going to be too challenging to work through? Did you feel like that this was, that it absolutely had to wait, that it couldn't, that it just was too much to deal with it right at that time?
Yeah, I mean, holidays obviously are a happy time. We celebrate. It's a big celebration for us. My husband's Italian. It's a big Italian celebration. Didn't want to put a damper on it with my news. So I thought there is a feeling of protection and kind of, my family had worked very hard to take time off, and it was like, I can't, tell them this at this time. They need to enjoy this time off. They need to, enjoy the fruits of their labor and have this time off so that they could enjoy the season. And I have a granddaughter who's just little. I think she was not even 2 at the time. So it's like, I want to enjoy my family, and I'm going to put this to the back burner, and they'll find out soon enough, and we'll deal with it soon enough.
What was helpful for you to cope? And how I asked that is, since that was a decision that you felt was necessary for the timing of it all, what helped you go through that, knowing that maybe it may have been more isolating for you, or isolated for you? What helped you during that time, just keeping it within and just waiting until the time was better?
Yeah, I think it was just, I was raised Catholic. I have a strong faith. I believed that this was all going to work out. And I really had kind of I felt like a responsibility to my family to just bury this for a while. Bury is the wrong word, but just, tone this down for a while until their time was right. And it was fine. I was positive. I felt we're going to get through this. I'm going to get through this. I have a very supportive family, and that's part of the reason I didn't want to tell them. I wanted to delay that until after the holidays. But I felt very positive, and I've always had a very positive outlook on challenges. At first, yes, it knocks you down. You're upset. And then as it kind of percolates, you start thinking, okay, we can work through this. Breast cancer, unfortunately, is very common. A lot of women have gone through this. A lot of women have survived this. So you just start, and I did do a lot of research, which I don't know if I'd recommend, but I did kind of, look on the positive side that the stats are good here. So I really tried to focus on that. And I had a little secret in the back of my head through the holidays and wondered how my family was going to react. But I kept, again, just trying to be positive and focus on the moment, the time with my family, all that happy time that we did share.
So as you were going through chemo and you were addressing the cancer, what did you discover? You mentioned that there were gifts along the way. Talk a little bit more about some of these maybe surprising discoveries, especially since, cancer is a journey where there's that level of uncertainty. So you don't necessarily, expect to find quote unquote gifts, but you certainly, the hope and the resolve is to get healthy, get stronger, and continue on. So what gifts surprised you the most?
I think for me, that when I went in to see the surgeon, he recommended a plastic surgeon. We'll take out the lump. Actually, there was 2 lumps. We'll take out the lumps. We're going to rebuild your breasts. And I remember talking to the plastic surgeon going, I had no idea. I had a friend that 20 years earlier had cancer. She had a double mastectomy and nothing was done. Her grandma before her had a mastectomy with an air bra. They put, I think, like balloons in your bra to stimulate breasts. And I thought, for me, the plastic surgeon said, we don't just deal with the cancer now. We deal with the whole body and the mind. And for me, I saw that as a huge gift, that the grandma that had the air bra, whatever that was 60 years ago, and my friend who went through cancer with a double mastectomy with nothing but scars, they paved the way. I had another friend who went through clinical trials and did drug testing. She was very athletic, very strong. She's my hero. She went through drug trials. All those people before me paved the way for me to have as good as experience as it could be. Breast cancer is not fun. I'm not underplaying it, but all the people before me helped me have a better experience. All that knowledge that was gained through the years, through the decades, helped me and hopefully the people after me having that better experience through breast cancer.
What was the most helpful with the dialogue that you were having with those close to you, those who maybe didn't know a whole lot of what was happening? Did you begin to share in general that you were going through this, or were you selective at who knew what you were going through at the time?
Once I went through chemo, my hair was very important to me. It was part of my personal brand. So when I lost my hair, I thought I can't hide this. So I became quite public with it. I actually did social media posts going, "You're not going to beat me. I'm a badass." So I actually kind of had a little bit of fun with it as someone who lost all their hair. But yeah, for me, I don't know. It was just, I did share things with close friends. And what surprised me the most was one of those close friends who was a childhood friend actually told me that my cancer journey was a cakewalk and that I thought I was better than everybody else. And I was so taken aback. And I was shocked and I was hurt. And then I actually went to counseling. I've never been in counseling in my life. Through this journey, I've had counseling. And the counselor said, it's not about you, it's about her. She never dealt with her breast cancer journey herself. So obviously I've forgiven, I've moved forward. But yeah, things like that shocked me. I wasn't expecting those kind of responses, but I mean, it happens. You got to move on. You got to forgive and forget and just realize again, that perspective. Why did they say that? What perspective are they coming from? So people, each of our journeys is very different. My lesson was, let's not judge. We do not know each of our journeys. I don't complain. So maybe that was part of it that made it look like a cakewalk. I'm not sure. I just kind of, barreled through. But my big lesson, my takeaway was, let's not judge people's journeys, no matter if it's breast cancer, if it's a mental health disorder, if it's another disease. Let's be careful what we say and how we judge or not judge.
Yes, no, I agree. And, it's what I find fascinating, what I find interesting is that, as sometimes when we are in a space of growth and progression, and I've thought about this these last couple years of my life, that sometimes our own actions threaten other people's inactions. And so then your movement is reminding them that they're not moving in a space that commands growth and ambition and guts, if you will. That for you to, and I think we have a picture, so hopefully we'll be putting it up here real soon. I love that picture of you without just being who you are, and this level of, so our viewers can see this, that things got real. And that you just dusted off your shoulders and you leaned forward and you presented this, I'm here and I'm going to stand and I'm going to deal and we're going to move forward. And I think that's profoundly commendable that you've done that. And as you're telling the story about getting that backlash from someone who felt that she was painting this, she was trying to tell herself this story of who does she think she is, but certainly hurt people, and her lack of action, the way that you moved, was being threatened because your level of proactivity was quite admirable. Let's just call it what it is.
Well, for me, it was a lesson that I was a lot more than my hair. I'm definitely more, I wear a wig. I'm not there yet to go bald, but anyway, I realized my brand is more than my hair. It's everything in here, right?
Yes. And I think that's fantastic. And I'll tell you in your journey and of course, cancer really cancer has a way of shifting things for us. And then I love the fact that you said that the gifts along the way were something that you were obtaining. What subtleties did you find within, like, your inner self? What were some things that you were discovering about you, the talents of you that came to surface as you were going through the chemo and bouncing back from this diagnosis?
One thing that definitely came to the forefront was I'm a lot braver than I have ever been. And I now ask myself, if I go into a new situation or talking to someone, I'm going, what have I got to lose? Losing your life is the ultimate loss. So if I ask, or if I asked someone out for lunch, which some people that was a big deal. There were some people that intimidated me, and I thought, what have I got to lose? I'm going to ask him for lunch. We're going to see where that goes. So it's stuff like that. And for me, when I was losing my hair, I'll tell you this story. It was May long weekend. I was planting flowers. I had just started chemo. So I had this full head of hair. I was on the deck. There was a light breeze blowing. and I was planting flowers, and the breeze started pulling my hair. There were strands of hair that were falling out from the breeze. They were landing in the flower petals and in the leaves, and I thought, I wanted to cry, but again, that perspective shift was, wow, my hair is falling into these flowers. I hope the birds come along and grab my hair and make nests for their babies so that they love my hair as much as I loved my hair. And I know it's only hair and it doesn't really matter, but it does kind of matter. But I kind of flipped it and go, I hope the birds take my hair and make a nest for their babies. And then it becomes that circle of life. So that's kind of what got me through when my hair started falling out. So you kind of just have to shift that perspective and go, what's the other side here?
So the neat thing in hearing that story is just the stepping away from, say, patterns of what we used to think, or maybe patterns of despair, patterns of, just thoughts of despair, or thoughts of, oh no, look what this means. But then it's flipping it and coming from the angle of, here's another way in which circle of life is evolving. So that's pretty incredible. That's a great way to have the right mindset that helps us grow. What helps you, being a breast cancer survivor today? What was helpful and what was not in terms of the dialogue? So we obviously the cakewalk comment, we're pushing that aside, but what was helpful for you going through the journey? And what was something that maybe for those tuning in with loved ones that are going through this right now, what's helpful to be mindful of to not enter in the picture? Yeah,
for me, it definitely made me braver. It made me, like I say, it's like, I'm not really afraid to ask that question or do that thing anymore, because what have I got to lose by doing that? So it made me braver. I think it made me a better communicator, because now I'm quite open. To show yourself with no hair, it makes you vulnerable, and vulnerability, I've always been closed, I've always been shy, I've always been quiet. It's made me talk. I mean, who would ever think that I would be telling my story to you? So it's made me want to share the story, because there's a lot of brave people out there, and like I say, most importantly, people that paved the way for me before me, that I'm grateful for. So it gave me gratitude, it gave me guts or bravery. It gave me, I think, that wake-up call to, oh yeah, you better lose the weight. You better walk more often. You better keep moving. You better watch the sugars. Sugar feeds cancer. So it's really learning all those and really kind of being a little more aware that life is fleeting. Enjoy your life, but be aware of making it the best you can. So I learned a lot. I met a lot of angels along the way. The healthcare system is fabulous. I met some nurses that were angels that walk the earth, I really have to say.
That's fantastic. And we've got a lot more to cover. Right now, we're going to take a commercial break. We will be right back here on The Health Revolution.
Life is so fragile, and we're constantly reminded just how fragile life can be, especially when we or a loved one is told we have cancer. Cancer survivor myself, I can tell you, we still feel very alone in this journey.
There's a study that's been showing that patients who are socially isolated have a worse prognosis, have a worse outcome than patients who are socially interconnected.
Buddies for Life is a non-profit cancer support group for those whose life has been impacted by cancer. Humor, hope, heart, and hugs.
Humor, hope, heart, hugs, and a whole lot of love.
Share this with your friends and family and support this community in every way you can. No one should face cancer alone.
I am a chemo buddy for life.
We are a buddies network.
No one does cancer alone.
Be a buddy.
And we are all here for you as a community of love.
We are chemo buddies for life.
And if you've heard 3 words, you have cancer, for yourself or someone else, you belong with us at Chemo Buddies for Life.
Healing through connections.
Welcome back to the Health Revolution. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison. Thank you all for tuning in as you are today for our episode live. And of course, we appreciate your comments, inputs, and feedback. We are still moving and grooving. And so all systems are a check in terms of the technical piece of things. And we've been talking with my guest today, Laura Ballerini, the graphic designer, author, and perspective shifter, in addition to being a breast cancer survivor. And I'd like to pivot and talk about your book, The Green Velvet Chair. And I have myself a copy here, but I want our viewers to see this here. And I'm going through the book, and I tell you what, such riveting stories that you do have here. Tell us about how you decided to write this book, what went into this, and what really spoke to you as this came to life.
Yeah, so again, it speaks to me being quite quiet, and I started taking a story writing course that was oral storytelling, and I took some workshops, several of them actually, and I learned to tell stories like orally. And the people in my group, it was mostly women. They would say, "Laura, you tell really good stories. Like that story made me laugh. That story made me cry." And I thought I never saw myself as a storyteller, as someone who was in any way interesting other than the work I do. And I thought, oh, wow, this really boosted my confidence. And it was like, oh, so I started writing short stories. The book is actually just a series of short stories. It's kind of like Chicken Soup for the Soul in regards to art and design, if you will. I think they're short, positive stories about art in everyday life. It's art and design, but it's not a textbook about how to make a logo. It's about Easter eggs, Ukrainian Easter eggs, and how you make them. It's about upholstery, sewing, music, cooking. All those things are art that we don't necessarily think about. So it was me trying to be more articulate that taught me that, oh, maybe I could write a book. I just started putting a whole bunch of stories together, and it became a book.
That's fantastic. So what's behind the title, The Green Velvet Chair?
That was a tough one. Like I say, there's a series of short stories in there. I came up with different titles, and I think I had Pixels, Pikas, and Perspective, and I put them out to social actually saying, what title works the best? Here's the synopsis of the book. And people are going, you have it wrong. It looks like a textbook. It looks like an art book that a student may buy. And it kind of was a wake-up call to go, oh, this has nothing to do with, it's not a textbook on art and design or how to make a logo or anything like that. It's about everyday life and everything relating to art and design in everyone's world. So there's a story in the book called The Green Velvet Chair. It's about my mother who, we were driving one day in the country. We took country drives in the country every Sunday. And there was 4 of us kids in the station wagon with my dad. We're driving down the road, and she sees this old chair in a farmer's field. It had no fabric on it. It was bare bones. She stopped and said, "I love that chair." And she went to the farmer and said, "Can I buy that chair that you've got in your field?" And he goes, "It's a piece of junk. Just take it." So my dad loaded it up, rolled his eyes, loaded this old basically piece of junk in the back of the car, and all us kids were rolling our eyes too, going, "Oh, what's mom going to do with this piece of junk?" So and she had a vision, and she had a vision that none of us saw. She took it home, she stripped it down to the horsehair stuffing, she sanded down all the, I think it was walnut arms and legs, and she took this green velvet and she made a diamond tufted backing on it. I actually have the chair in my office here. It gives me inspiration every day. And I thought this was a piece of junk that no one saw the value. And she had a vision in her mind, but no one believed it. No one understood it until it came to fruition. And then we go, wow. So The Green Velvet Chair just seemed to be the obvious title for the book.
I love this. And I'll tell you, this is you've got quite the stories here. And there's one I do want to ask you about the, the, the cat's perspective, chapter 10. Now, of course, we're cat owners here, so they're part of our family. But tell us a little bit more about a cat's perspective from your book.
Yeah, so I have a home office. Our bedroom is across the hall. So every time I go into my office, we've got French doors that lead onto the patio, but the blinds are typically closed. But frequently I see our family cat sitting in front of the closed blinds. And I'm going, oh, that's so weird. Like, what is he looking at? It looks like he's got his face against a wall, with the blinds closed. So one day I thought, I'm going to lay down beside him and see what he sees. And we've got Venetian blinds. And I laid down beside him. Of course, my hair touched him and he scurried away. So I was there by myself on the floor looking up into these Venetian blinds, and I could see slivers of light through the Venetian blinds. And I thought, oh, he can see the sky and the trees moving and the clouds. And he could probably see squirrels, and we've got lots of squirrels and birds in the backyard. He could probably see that through these slivers of light. And I thought that, and probably a little of incognito as well. He was probably stealth-like, where he's kind of hiding, but he could see what was going on outside. But what it did is, again, about perspective, it made me wonder how many of us, this was during the war of Ukraine, all the craziness happening in the world. And I thought, how many of us, myself included, are seeing the world through these slivers of light as opposed to having the blinds wide open? Are we citing our sources? Are we listening to the news and making sure that's accurate? The details are accurate. Are we seeing things from a skewed perspective or from a fully open perspective? And it just it was a simple story, but it was kind of like it made me think about, how are we viewing the world as myself and as other individuals? Are we seeing it with the blinds wide open? Are we making choices with the blinds wide open? Or are we seeing it from a skewed perspective? So it was kind of an interesting sideline when I saw the cat.
I love that. What was the one thing that, or maybe more than one, what are some things that you discovered about yourself that you didn't realize before your cancer journey, before becoming a businesswoman, that you discovered in writing this book?
It sounds silly, but I realized I was funny. Some of the stories have little jokes in them, and they're kind of dry and they're kind of silly and they're kind of stupid. But it was like people that I knew would text me and go, "Oh, I'm reading your story and I can really hear your voice. And I never realized how funny you were." So that kind of came out it doesn't really come out when I talk, but it came out in my writing. So that was something that was pretty enlightening.
Wow. And then tell me about the story. Talk to me about when I grow up, I want to be a wedding planner. So that's completely different from the upbringings, that the ideas that you had before. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that was really, my daughter was getting married, and gosh, I had so much fun. I did everything from, we did centerpieces, but we didn't buy flowers, and we didn't buy real flowers. We didn't even buy fake flowers. We actually made the flowers out of fabric. Like there's not enough things to do. Let's make the flowers. It was kind of silly when you think about it, but I enjoyed every aspect of making the centerpieces, to making the pew markers, to making the posters that hung, in the hall. So it was like, wow, the creativity involved in planning a wedding, for example. And it's just one of the many examples of creativity and design are everywhere in our life. Maybe a wedding more than most, but it was just a great experience and a great, it took me from being a flat designer in digital to doing 3D pieces, 3D, flower pieces and centerpieces and posters and everything else. So it was kind of interesting that it took me from the 2D, my basically one-dimensional world of picas or pixels, to, this 3D world of everything wedding.
Now, I know that you wrote The Green Velvet Chair. Is this the only book that is within your wheelhouse, or will there be more? Is there a second book?
I am working on a book called The Blue Garden Bench, and it's only and that may be about my cancer journey. I sat in the backyard. We have a blue bench in the garden, and through much of my chemo, I'd sit in sit in the backyard and just contemplate life and, deal with what I was going through. And that became very introspective. And even your commercial that you guys ran on cancer, it is kind of sometimes you feel very alone. And my stories are very positive. And even the ones about being introspective, it's like, okay, you find out so much about yourself. One thing I learned was I try so hard in everything I do. I put everything into it, and I'm learning, don't try so hard. Just try hard enough, So it's those kind of introspective insights that I learned, as well as, the bird story and many, before I started my chemo, the day before I got a call from my sister. I thought she was going to wish me luck for my chemo the next day, which was Mother's Day. And she said, I have something to tell you. I've been in a car accident. And she goes, I was hit by a motorcycle. And she goes, he lost his life. And what that did for me was I was so worried about going into chemo and losing my hair. But yet I just heard a story about this young man that lost his life. And it was Mother's Day. And that mother will not get another call from her son. And I'm worried about losing my hair. So again, it put things in perspective. So anyway, those are the kind of stories that I want to put in the Blue Garden Bench.
That would be a fantastic read for sure. So I can't wait for that. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back after this.
Jeff Pearson here, host of Invisible Condition, where we talk about all the people who are living and thriving with all those conditions that you can't necessarily see from the outside. Join me every Tuesday and Friday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time on E360 TV.
We're back here on the Health Revolution. We've got just a little bit of time left before we wrap up. My guest today, Laura Ballerini, graphic designer, author of The Green Velvet Chair, and breast cancer survivor who has been sharing incredible stories of hope, inspiration, and optimism. Where can viewers find you as they're learning about you and feeling inspired about your journey and seeing what you've got going on?
So I have a corporate website that's bluebrown.com, again, named after my two daughters, no E in blue. So bluebrown.com is my corporate website. I also have an author website where you can learn more about the book and some testimonials at it's badass-ballerini.com. And there's a story about the badass. But anyway, that's my book, my author website. And then, of course, you can find the book on Amazon.
Yes, and where can they find you on social media?
I'm on actually Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook, of course. So yeah, I'm on all those. All the links I think are on bluebrown.com and my author website.
Yes, fantastic. Well, I'm continuing to read the book. I find it fascinating. And Laura, it's been incredible to have you on the show. Thank you so much for spending your time, your energy, your input, and your message. I think it obviously needs to be heard, and your inspiration to others, to all of us, needs to be shared for sure. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Adrienne. It was fantastic.
Yes, and to all of our viewers tuning in, we appreciate your time. Don't forget that you can always tune in you can check out what we've got going on for our show. Our website is thehealthrevolutiontv.com. That's where you can also share your input, feedback, any ideas, topics that you would love to see coming up on the horizon. We certainly would love to hear from from you. Don't forget to subscribe to the Health Revolution TV show, no matter which way you are tuning in. We are on the Achieve TV channel Tuesdays and Thursdays, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so that about wraps it up today. I'm so glad that you spent time with us today. And so until next time, take care.